Welcome back to They Never Saw It Coming, the channel where the people who think they've won are usually the ones about to learn the biggest lesson. My mother spent 40 years making sure my sister and I knew exactly where we stood. And according to her, it was always somewhere below everyone else. If another child got an A in school, she would ask why we couldn't be more like them. If a neighbor's daughter got engaged, she'd ask why nobody wanted us. If we succeeded at something, she'd find a reason it wasn't impressive enough. For most of my childhood, I thought all mothers were like that. I thought every little girl went to bed wondering why she could never make her mother proud. It wasn't until I started spending weekends at my friends' houses that I realized something wasn't normal. Their mothers hugged them. Their mothers encouraged them. Their mothers didn't turn every conversation into a criticism. When I was 12 years old, I asked my mother why she never said she was proud of me. She looked up from her coffee. I don't believe in giving praise people haven't earned. I remember standing there completely frozen. I had just won a regional writing competition. I had spent months working on it. Teachers congratulated me. Friends congratulated me. Even strangers congratulated me. But my mother's response was, "One contest doesn't make you special." That sentence stayed with me for years. Not because it hurt. Because it taught me something. No achievement would ever be enough. Not for her. The strange part was that my father was the exact opposite. Dad was warmth. Dad was laughter. Dad was safety. He attended every school event. Every concert. Every graduation. Every game. He wasn't wealthy. He wasn't powerful. But he made people feel important. Especially his daughters. If Mom spent her life tearing people down, Dad spent his building them up. To this day, I have no idea how they ended up together. Nobody did. Even relatives used to joke about it. My father would laugh. My mother never did. As my sister Emily and I grew older, things became worse. Mom didn't just criticize us. She compared us. Constantly. If I did well, she'd praise Emily. If Emily succeeded, she'd praise someone else. There was always a competition. Always a winner. Always a loser. And somehow neither of us ever won. Years later, a therapist explained something important. She said some parents create division because divided children are easier to control. That sentence explained my entire childhood. Mom always wanted us competing. Always wanted us seeking her approval. Always wanted us chasing affection she had no intention of giving. The saddest part? For years, it worked. When I got married at 27, my mother spent most of the wedding criticizing the decorations. When Emily bought her first home, Mom pointed out everything wrong with it. When my daughter was born, Mom visited the hospital and immediately commented on my weight. She didn't ask how I was feeling. She didn't ask about the baby. Her first words were, "You still look pregnant." I wish I could say I stood up to her. I didn't. Most of us didn't. Because after decades of hearing the same voice, you start believing it. That's the real damage people don't understand. Cruelty doesn't just hurt you. It changes the way you see yourself. Through all of it, Dad remained our anchor. Whenever Mom created chaos, Dad restored peace. Whenever she criticized, he encouraged. Whenever she humiliated us, he quietly reminded us of our worth. He never fought with her publicly. But he always found ways to protect us afterward. When my daughter was 10 years old, she asked why Grandma was always angry. Dad smiled sadly. Then he said, "Some people spend so much time looking for flaws that they forget how to see beauty." That sentence tells you everything you need to know about my father. Then we lost him. A heart attack. Sudden. Unexpected. One ordinary Tuesday. One moment he was here. The next he wasn't. The grief hit all of us differently. But for Emily and me, It felt like losing the only person who had always been in our corner. The funeral was packed. Hundreds of people came. Neighbors, co-workers, church members, former students, friends. Everyone had a story about Dad. Everyone talked about his kindness, his humor, his generosity, his patience. Afterward, we chose his headstone. It read, "Beloved husband, devoted father, loyal friend, ***. Simple, true, beautiful. Exactly who he was." Mom outlived him by almost 20 years. And something changed after Dad died. Without him balancing her out, her bitterness became impossible to ignore. Relationships disappeared. Friends stopped visiting. Relatives kept their distance. Even people who once defended her started seeing the truth. Yet somehow she never noticed. Or maybe she refused to. Because in her mind, everyone else was always the problem. Never her. One Christmas, Emily spent weeks preparing dinner. She cooked everything herself. Decorated the house. Bought gifts. Planned activities for the grandchildren. Mom arrived, looked around, and said, "This is what all the fuss was about." The room went silent. You could actually feel the joy disappear. Emily smiled politely. But later that night she cried in the kitchen. Not because of the comment. Because she realized nothing would ever change. Years passed. Then Mom got sick. At first it was manageable. Eventually it wasn't. Emily and I still helped. We still visited. We still handled appointments. Because that's what decent people do. Not because she earned it. Because we wanted to live with ourselves afterward. And honestly, I think Dad would have wanted it. Near the end, something unexpected happened. Mom became quieter. Not kinder. Just quieter. One afternoon I sat beside her hospital bed. She stared out the window. Then she asked, "Do you think I was a good mother?" For a moment I couldn't speak. 40 years of memories flooded back. The criticism. The comparisons. The insults. The disappointment. Everything. I looked at her. Really looked at her. And for the first time I saw something I had never seen before. Fear. She already knew the answer. She just wanted someone else to change it. I squeezed her hand. "I think you did the best you knew how." It wasn't the answer she wanted. But it was the truth. She died 3 months later. The funeral was small. Very small. Nothing like Dad's. Most people came out of respect for us. Not for her. And afterward, Emily and I were left with one final responsibility. The family burial plot. The shared headstone. Dad's side was already engraved. Now we had to decide what would be written beneath Mom's name. At first everyone expected the usual phrases. Loving mother. Cherished grandmother. Devoted wife. But every option felt dishonest. Not cruel. Dishonest. And neither Emily nor I wanted our final act to be a lie. For weeks we debated. We discussed memories. Stories. Truth. Forgiveness. Eventually Emily said something that changed everything. "If we can't honestly praise her, maybe we shouldn't." The room became silent. Because she was right. A month later we met with the monument company. The designer asked what inscription we wanted. I looked at Emily. Emily looked at me. Then we both started laughing. Not because it was funny. Because suddenly the answer felt obvious. Perfect, actually. Not cruel. Not insulting. Just truthful. 6 months later the new engraving was finished. People visited the cemetery. Friends. Relatives. Neighbors. Many stopped and stared. The stone read, "Here lies William Carter. Beloved husband. Devoted father. Faithful friend. A life well lived." And directly beneath, "Also Mary Carter." That's it. No insults. No attacks. No cruelty. Just 2 words. Also Mary. When relatives called asking why, we gave the same answer. Because we refused to lie. The truth wasn't flattering. But it wasn't malicious either. It was simply honest. For 40 years my mother controlled every conversation. Every gathering. Every family event. Every story. But in the end, she couldn't control the final one. The truth finally spoke for itself. And it did so in only 2 words. The strangest thing happened after that. I stopped being angry. For years I thought justice would feel dramatic. I thought it would feel like victory. It didn't. It felt like peace. Because I finally stopped chasing approval that was never coming. I finally accepted something Dad had spent years trying to teach us. Some people cannot give what they do not have. And that's not your fault. Today, when I visit the cemetery, I always stop at Dad's side first. I tell him about the grandchildren. The birthdays. The milestones. The life he helped create. Then I glance at the other side of the stone. And I feel something I never expected. Not resentment. Not satisfaction. Just understanding. Because the greatest victory wasn't exposing my mother. It was surviving her. And building a life she said I never could. If you've ever faced a situation like this, let us know in the comments. If you believe truth matters more than appearances, hit the like button. And subscribe to They Never Saw It Coming, because sometimes justice doesn't arrive with a shout. Sometimes it arrives with 2 simple words. Also Mary. And she never saw it coming.